Baseball family, welcome to another episode of Ball Talk, where I talk to Brian Slipka. Unfortunately, Brig was not able to join us due to some technical difficulties, but I feel like I had a great conversation with Brian, so stay tuned and enjoy. Welcome back, baseball family, to another episode of Ball Talk. Today we have Brian Slipka with us. He is the writer of the book Win Some. It's you said it's just kind of some baseball analogies and stories and things like that to talk about life. And he's the owner of the Sioux Canaries, Pillbox bats, and just a big baseball guy. So we're going to talk ball and talk about the Canaries and some other stuff we get into. But before we do that, Brian, we're going to give you the same treatment we give all of our guests. We're going to get you caught in a rundown. So the first question for you: what is your quest?
To have impact and influence in others.
Nice. You are a businessman. You had that right on the tip of your tongue. I like that. That's good. So the next question, probably the hardest one you're gonna get asked. What is your favorite color?
Hmm. I'm gonna say maroon.
Maroon, like University of Minnesota maroon.
You got it.
Nailed it. I love it. So let's talk about the Canaries for a minute. If the Canaries were a beverage, what would they be?
Wow. They would be they would be an oldie but a goodie, which means that it would probably be something like um what's an old beverage that we all like, but maybe like a orange crush. Just
Orange Crush.
timeless, good, has a little pop to it.
It's a good one. That's really good. My initial thought is root beer when somebody goes old fashioned,
There you go.
old
Yeah.
timey, but yeah, I like that though. So if baseball though was an ice cream flavor, what would it be?
I think it would be probably mint chocolate chip because it's there's so many elements to it, and so it's not just the one flavor that you're eating. It's like you got the ice cream plus you got the mints and a little bit of kick to it, and so yeah, you got to think about it a little bit. You got to let it melt in your mouth if you want to taste the chocolate. So
Love it. That's such a solid one too. Like, uh, sometimes I because we've got that one a few times, and so I'll think back like, man, yeah, that's been a solid one for a long time. That's a great flavor. Um, okay, I have two more for you. What is one unpopular baseball opinion that you have?
one unpopular what baseball what?
Un, but one unpopular baseball opinion that you have.
Oh, unpopular. I think that it's boring because it's
Mm,
not. It's not
I
boring at
get
all. You just gotta know how to watch it.
That's exactly right. I talk about that all the time. So I have a 10-year-old and he's been playing baseball since he's like 3. But he goes through phases like, Dad, it's just so boring. I'm like, it's because you're not playing right. And I tell the kids, and I've coached him a few times. I tell the kids that he plays with all the time, like, if you're bored, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Every time the ball is hit, doesn't matter where you are, you should be moving. And so, part of that's my fault for not teaching him where to move and when to move. But
I will say though, it usually clicks around 11 or 12, so you're on the precipice of them actually understanding what you're saying. Like they are hearing you, but they aren't really internalizing it yet. And watch when that light bulb clicks, it gets fun as a dad.
oh, it is. Yeah, I had a buddy. We coached 11 and 12-year-olds a while ago, and we did the same thing with them. And balls are flying all over the field. And so we're like, wait a minute, like you need to be backing up here, here, and here. And once we did that, everything was amazing, and everybody was kept their attention. So you're right, 11, 12, that is where it clicks.
Yep.
One more year, we're almost there.
Yeah.
Almost there.
Yeah. Almost.
Okay, this is the last question for you, and this is a controversial one. Is Babe Ruth overly romanticized?
So I'm gonna cheat a little bit on how I answer that. So the answer is no, because of the impact. Back to what the question I answered for you earlier, the impact and influence he had on the country and the game makes him have earned all of the romanticism that exists to this day about him. Okay, because of the impact and influence he had. Now, as a player, though, I mean, if we were to watch him today, I don't think we'd be nearly as impressed. um, That's just that's just what I think. I mean, you see some of the grainy old footage of him, and I'm like, he's got a pop to his swing. He gets his hips into it and whatever. But like, I don't know. I mean, but he earned it because of the impact he had on this country, and on the game. So I mean, can't argue with that.
I think that's the best answer we've ever gotten. A lot because this is a conversation Brig and I have been having for years, and I've been saying because at one point I straight up said overrated, and I was like, that's not the thing. It's overly romanticized, and it's on the field because we've had people point out too when we ask that question, they say the same thing: the impact he had off the field. Like we had somebody point out his role in cancer research, being the first person to ever have chemo and radiation together because he's willing to be basically the guinea pig for it, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
the impact off the field and the way he changed the game is amazing, but just the play, I don't think would translate, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you do look at the stats, I mean, in his era, I mean, how he went from being a pitcher to a hitter,
Mm-hmm.
and then he became a great hitter. I mean, he was great. The one thing I
Mm-hmm.
do like about it from a business leader perspective, he was excellent in whatever role he was in. So
Mm-hmm.
so when he was a pitcher, he was an excellent pitcher. When he shifted to become just a hitter, he was an excellent hitter, right? And then even
Mm-hmm.
after his playing career, when he was barnstorming for fun, to your point, he was trying to have impact and influence in other ways in life. And so, even though he was a flawed human being, he was by no means perfect. The more
Right.
you learn about him, uh, you can't underestimate his impact and influence, which again is why he has been romanticized. But as a player, he wasn't like as legend. I don't think he was as legendary. Maybe he was though. I mean, I don't know. We weren't around, right?
And that's one of the things too is I was like, we have to take the word of the old timey sports writer, the guy who is seeing something he's never seen before, and that's kind of where I go with is like if you've never seen an airplane, how are you going to describe it? You're going to say it's some kind of dragon or something, some kind of flying beast, right? And you've never seen anybody like Babe Ruth, and I'm starting to understand a little bit better because we're seeing Otani right now, and it's not anything we've ever seen in our lifetime. So it's like I kind of get it, but at the same time, I do feel like you've got to take the old timey sports writer with a grain of salt because
Yeah,
he wasn't hitting that ball a country mile.
yeah, but you take a look at Babe Ruth, and you've got to put him in that category within his era of like the Tiger Woods of our era. Now, like you said, the
Mm-hmm.
Otani or the Michael Jordan, where you stop whatever you're doing if you see him in our case
Mm-hmm.
on TV. Like if Tiger Woods is playing in a major and he's in contention, like clear your calendar. Like I mean,
Right.
that's the impact he has. If like Otani and Trout in the World Baseball Classic, that was awesome. Like that. I mean, if you're a baseball fan, like that was an awesome showdown. Or
Yeah.
Otani in the World, and Dodgers in the Dodgers Yankees in the World Series. I mean, how incredible was that? So it's those types of moments were created, I think, a lot with Babe, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why he was immortalized the way he was.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're spot on with stopping what you're doing. I mean, Fox for crying out loud was putting Otani 3 batters away on the screen, so everybody knew. You know, hold on, he's coming up. He'll be here soon. You
Yeah,
know.
go to the bathroom now because you want to watch him. Go get some food now and come back so you can be ready to
Yeah.
watch.
Exactly right. Exactly. All right, that is the rundown. I appreciate the conversation. I always like the conversation that last question brings. It's been a lot of fun to include that as our rundown. So let's talk. Let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about the Sioux Falls Canaries because independent ball fascinates me. So first, I want to know how you got. Tell us about how you got involved with the Canaries and what the process was like to buy the team. I mean, that's an interesting process to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, first off, it's very similar. Like we were talking before a little bit, like with you and Brig. I mean, we're first off, we're college buddies. My buddy Anthony Albanese, otherwise known as Twan. So Twan and I were college buddies, and in the dorm rooms, or really, I think in our college apartment, it was when our sophomore year. We spoke about how cool it'd be to someday own a minor league baseball team. We just gone to a Saints game, or talked about going to a Saints game, or
Mm-hmm.
but we had a conversation like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we owned a minor league baseball team someday? And that was when we were like 19 years old, right? You fast forward 25 years, and we're in our mid 40s, and we both have had different kinds of success. I'm a business leader and business owner. He started a awesome brand called Duke Cannon, the men's grooming products company that a lot of the listeners and viewers probably are familiar with. And so we were reflecting in my office about 5 years ago, saying, "Hey, remember we talked about that? Well, we can actually afford a team if we want one. We should get one." And we're like, "Let's get one." And and within like a week or two, we were on the phone with a couple different teams that were quietly marketing themselves. And I was born in Sioux Falls, so we found out Sioux Falls was available, I was like, we got to get Sioux Falls. It's reasonably close to Minneapolis, where both he and I live, and
Hmm.
Minneapolis, St. Paul. And so we bought the Canaries, and we bought them kind of like right at height of COVID, a lot of uncertainty around baseball, but
Hmm.
so it's been a rebuild because the Canaries hadn't been overly invested in the years prior to us acquiring them, and then of course you add in COVID and an old stadium, and it was a fixer upper, so to speak. But it's been a fun journey where we're in our fifth season, and like every year has gotten a little bit better than the last. We've now added a ton of programming, getting more fans. We're winning. We're putting a winning product in the field, and indie ball I love indie ball because it's pure baseball. It's a high growth relative to I think the rest of baseball, frankly, because these towns like Sioux Falls, actually embrace their team, and the teams are there to win as opposed to the
Hmm.
affiliated teams where players are coming and going all the time.
Right. Yeah, that is absolutely right. I have never had the chance to really go watch independent ball, but I've heard stories, right? Like back when the Saints were independent, like I heard that it was just a spectacle going to games because they could do things you can't do anywhere else, you know?
Totally, yeah,
You can
yeah.
have a train track going through the outfield.
Yep, yep. Well, and like even things. So you got the elements of the entertainment, right? I mean, it's a little bit more crazy and zany than you'll see the affiliated games. The affiliated teams do a great job too, but we just have more freedoms and more liberties. I think in the partner league game, we call them partner leagues now, right? Because we're
Hmm.
affiliated or we're partnering with MLB. We aren't affiliated with them, which means that we still have a relationship with them, but it's still independent, right? We put together our rosters, we put together all the programming, and so there's so much freedom in that. And then the other thing that you would appreciate, Brad, is that you know the teams play to win. I mean, like they play to win because they actually care about it. And these kids are professionals, either trying to make it or maybe on the end of their career trying to have get back to the show, and
Hmm.
and and they just there's an intensity that exists that's real, and they
Hmm.
play to win. And so even like the camaraderie of like the officials, you get to know the players really well during the year. And so like there's just always interesting dynamics and relationships that make it really fun, and unbelievable story and experience.
That's really cool. And the small town relationship with the baseball team is so different too. So yeah, you do get to know those guys because you're probably seeing them at the grocery store throughout the
Totally,
season.
totally. And then the fans get to know them after the games. I mean, when I open
Hmm.
up as an owner, I'm probably not I'm one of only probably a handful that do this, but I open up the right field, one of the taps in right field after the games when I'm in town, and I invite the players to have a cold one after the game, and they get to know the fans, they get to know obviously their teammates better, get to know us better, and there's just a closeness to it that you don't get in like the really high levels of professional sports. And
Hmm.
so there's an intimate feeling we're like a family. And
Hmm.
I think that's what's propelled. We got a great manager, and that's what's propelled us to success.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So one thing that I'm always curious about with independent is like where do you find your players at? Because obviously with minor league baseball and the affiliated leagues, like there's a pipeline, right? But I'm always curious how the independent teams fill out their rosters. What do you
Well, I
guys do?
mean, yeah, I mean, there's a pipeline there too. I mean, Mike Meyer, our manager, and Jewel Higby, our general manager, they've been together for many years, so there's a lot of continuity. The Sioux Falls brand has increased in the last few years with us putting more investments in the team, the players, the stadium, all that stuff, and the community. And so I think we're on the uptick. We're like one of those growth stocks that players, when they hear about, oh, I hear Sioux Falls is a great experience. And but as far as how it works is, Mike and Duel are working a lot of the different connections in Major League Baseball and in the minor leagues, the affiliated teams, to stay in touch with players, stay in touch with league officials. So as they drop players like from AA or AAA, or maybe they get released from the show, they play a week at AAA and then they get cut or waived. Those are the types of situations that we're always monitoring. But a lot of it's in the winter season, like winter leagues, where we're talking to players, actively recruiting and vying for them to sign with us, as opposed to other independent options that they have. And it's been a fun journey learning how it all works.
Does it feel almost like recruiting for college when you do that? When you're talking to guys trying to get them to come to you, or is it a little more? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is a little more like college now with NIL and everything like that, right?
Well, I mean, I think if Mike was answering that for you, I think he'd say it's probably a lot like recruiting before NIL. I mean, a little bit of NIL we can, because we have a salary cap, so we're pretty limited in what we can and can't do, and we can't offer them. We can offer them limited community events kind of fees and stuff, but that doesn't move the needle much for them. And so it's pretty much everyone's in the kind of on the same playing field. So you really got to sell them on the experience, on the relationships, on the clubhouse, the culture, the city, the housing arrangements, like those types of things that you got to get them excited about. But the other thing is just them living out their dreams and being a part of it. I mean, part of them, Canaries being owned by being a True North company with my family of companies. I mean, I've actually hired a few players, actually three players from my previous Canaries rosters that are now working for me full time in one of my different businesses,
Nice.
professionally. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's actually kind of an indirect recruiting tool. Like, I mean, we don't try to overtly recruit that way, but if there's a kid that got his business degree and has done some things in the off season to show that he's got some business chops and or experience in one field or another, heck, I mean, I like that. And then they know there's going to have to be life after baseball, and they value what True North stands for and what we're all about, which is, again, impact and influence in the communities and areas we have businesses, beyond profit, as we call it. That's been a good way to bring people in too.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's it's an interesting pool to drop them, but it's really cool that you can do that still.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like intentional. I don't try to use it as like
Yeah.
secret sauce, but it's just sort of happens naturally, right? You get to know these
Uh-huh.
kids and players, and they start
Right.
talking to each other, and so.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. Life after baseball is a hard pill to swallow sometimes. I mean, I was only 17, right? But at the same time, it's like I remember talking to this girl I was dating at the time, and she was saying something about how something she wanted to do. I was like, just do it. And she's like, what are you talking about? That's like absurd. I was like, you're talking to the guy who 2 months ago was going to be a Major League Baseball player. That was the plan. Okay, so like,
I love it. I love
just
it. Yeah,
just do it.
sometimes in life that you just gotta have a bias for action, as I like to say.
I like that. That's really good. So, as the owner of a baseball team, I'm curious because I'm always curious what people think about this. How do you feel about the Savannah Bananas and the way that they play and banana ball in general, the way they do things?
Well, hey, listen. I mean, I give them an incredible amount of credit for creativity and creating their own brand and they're really their own economy. So, hats off to the entire team, the ownership, for creating the brand and culture, and they've done an unbelievable job. I mean, from just a pure business perspective, you have to respect what
Mm-hmm.
they've done, and there is an entertainment element, but let's also be real. Like, they're effectively the Harlem Globetrotters of of
Mm-hmm.
baseball. And
Mm-hmm.
like the Harlem Globetrotters, these players are characters. They're actors. They do an unbelievable job, of performing their craft. But it's just a different deal, right? So I think just recognizing it for what it is, it's an unbelievable experience. It's awesome, and yet it's not real baseball. So, and that's fine.
Right.
And so I think there's there's a coolness to that, and I think it's their own brand. People who are going to try to replicate them, like I've been asked a bunch of times by people, like, "Oh, you got to be more like the Savannah Bananas." I'm like, well, that's like not to continue the fruit and analogy or food analogy, but that's like apples and asparagus. It's not even like in this. It's not even fruit. I mean, it's a different ecosystem, and
You're right.
so I'm no, we aren't going to compete with them. We they're their own brand and their own deal, and maybe would we host them someday to let them kind of put on a show, so to speak? Absolutely. But like, because I respect the heck out of them, and I think that they bring a lot of entertainment value. So, but it's different. It's a different deal.
Yeah, it really is, and I didn't realize how different it was until I got to see him this last year, and it was one of those things where it's like you see the videos on YouTube, Facebook, or whatever, and it looks more like real baseball, right? Until you see it in person, they're like, oh, "Okay, I get it." Like, yeah,
It's like theater. It's theater. I mean,
yeah,
it's really
it is.
theater.
Yeah, it is, and it's a lot of fun. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a ton of fun, and I love the live music. I love the music going the entire game. But yeah, it's you're right. It's the Harlem Globetrotters, and it is not real baseball, despite the entertainment. But it's a good
But
time.
I hope that I will say I hope that they continue because I think it brings interest to baseball in a more
Hmm.
fun loving way. I
Hmm.
think it's really important for the sport indirectly, and again kudos to them for what they've created.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, great entertainment. And it does bring interest to baseball because we see kids around here all the time wearing their banana shirts and stuff like that, and but they're at baseball stuff, right? Like they're at the backfields, they're at spring training
Sure.
and things like that. So it's
Yeah.
cool. I want to talk to you for a minute about Pillbox bats
Yeah.
because I showed you before, like we love our souvenir bats. Brig and I like love bats. I don't know why, but we are just so fascinated with them. Where did you come up with the idea? Tell us a little bit about Pillbox bats first, and then I want to know where you came up with the idea.
Well, first off, so Pillbox bats were started by Zach and Dan, who were high school buddies. So I mean, there's a theme here today, right?
Mm-hmm.
you got you two who host the show. You got my buddy Twan and I who bought the Canaries, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
Dan and Zach, and they started Pillbox Bat Company. They made bat. They basically were goofing around as little kids, grade school kids, making bats out of like twigs and stuff, and they got really creative. Zach's like an artist, truly
Okay.
Zach's an artist, and Dan's a retired, served our country, retired military guy. And again, as they got older, they rekindled their friendship when he returned from the military. Dan did, and they started this Pillbox Bat Company. And Pillbox, which is a True North company now, we came alongside them a few years ago to help them grow and help them with their MLB licensing and their MLB Players Association licensing and that
Okay.
sort of thing. Um, we it's just a fascinating story, Brad. I mean, here's these guys that they're artisan bats, and what it does, it's like an ode to the Sandlot sort of style of baseball that we used to play when we were growing up back in the olden days, right? Maybe not so olden days, but the but it's such a cool deal. I mean, I even have bats here. Like for example, this is Albert Pujols when he hit his 700th home run. Like
That's
that's like a
awesome.
custom artistic design. I mean, these are authentic pillbox bats, which means that it is artisan. It is a collectible. These things do have value to them after they get bought and sold. I mean, these things are collectibles, right? And we're actually getting to the point now where we're serializing them more, especially the ones that Zach custom designs. So these are really neat. And then you have painted bats. Like this is the Twins. When they won the Central Division a couple years ago. Oh, you can't see it there.
There we go.
And the Twins did this as a season ticket giveaway for us, and so I actually got it as a season ticket guy, even though I own the company, right? But they use Pillbox. Obviously it's a collectible item for them. But here's the thing: the bats are awesome. We haven't launched any of them into like actual collegiate, wooden bat leagues or MLB or minor leagues or any of that stuff for actual to be used for playing. They're an artisan collectible bat, right? Formally, right? Now they
Hmm.
have been used for that stuff, and they perform reasonably well, right? But we don't
Okay.
we don't say that they're accredited to be used for games, right? Um, but it's just such a cool deal. So, like for example, when the Rangers won the World Series in November of 23, right? Um,
Hmm.
Zach and Dan rolled out a custom edition, limited edition World Series champion series, right? And those things, they are gone like within like 2 hours, right? And
Wow.
just to give you the degree of interest, and so we do these for the bat. It's just a cool deal. I mean, we do these as awards for like businesses, like business awards, like hey, you hit it out of the park this year, kind of thing. Um,
Nice.
in my boardroom, I have this to celebrate different successes we've had and different companies, and so it's just been a really a little bit of a shameless plug for Pillbox, but
Hey, right on.
what's so neat about it, Brad, is how we and how Dan and Zach, it's like a personal, it's a personal story that they've created and started, and it's been met with a ton of success, and we feel like there's a whole future of growth around. There's so much room for growth. We're in all the clubhouse stores. A lot of the teams will do special things for their season ticket holders, and then do custom limited releases. We feel like there's a whole market in minor league baseball. It's truly a collectible, almost like a baseball card.
Hmm. Yeah, they're so cool. I mean, when I first got an email interested of you coming on the show, I was like, okay, pillbox bats. This sounds fascinating. I jumped on, and I was like, these are super cool. They're so cool. Have you guys thought at all about like doing custom bats for guys like in the home run derby or anything like that? Because some of those bats those guys have are really cool.
Yeah, I think in the years to come you might see some of that. Um, you know, but again, that just depends on a lot of factors, right? I mean,
Right.
the because we don't have them in games right now. Typically,
Hmm.
they'll go with their whoever their supplier is, and then the supplier will offer to do certain creative things. So I think we can see us. You can see them in a lot of. I think for Pillbox, you can see us being in a lot of um, the kind of other stuff that surrounds
Hmm.
the game, and super excited about that though.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'd love to see more of those in the game. And I would love for Major League Baseball to just not be quite so snooty about their bats. I'm like, guys, customize them. Let them be like cleats. You know, who cares? It's gonna break anyway. Just let them customize them.
I think you'll see that open up in the years to come. The collective bargaining agreements, I think, going to unlock a lot of that creativity for the game, and let players, do that type of thing, and the game needs that too, just as it continues to evolve.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So we got to get wrapping up here in just a minute. So my last question for you is, if you could have any bat, I see you got your Twins bat. If you got to have any design on a bat, what would it be?
Wow, any design, I think it would be. It would probably have something to do with my faith as well as True North. Because part of the reason I started the True North family of companies has to do with, hey, I'm trying to chase something bigger than just profit and just success, earthly success, right? How do I have impact and influence on others? That really is more of a faith driven pursuit. So I think it would be something along those lines. Because when you think about it, it's just like in Major League when Serrano just, you know, you know, uh, says, to Joe Boo, hey, I'm going to do, like, he took it into his own hands, right? But it had to do with his faith, right?
Hmm.
And then you saw what happened, right? And so anyway, everyone's got their own way of doing it, and so I think it would be tied somehow to that.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I like it. We do a live stream every year for the home run derby, and this year that was one of the conversations that one of the directions that our conversation steered. And I'm a big Star Wars guy, and so I was like, I would love to have like two lightsabers crossed behind me, and it's just sure
Oh,
enough, Jackson Merrill actually had a I think he had a blue lightsaber bat for Players Weekend, and it was like that's the one, Brig. That's the bat. That's what I was like. It was so cool. It was
so
awesome to see it.
yeah, so you'd already thought of it, but he actually implemented
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I was like, I wonder if he listened to the live stream. I don't know, but probably not.
He probably had a buddy that listened to it and then told him about it.
He may have. He may have. That'd be really cool to have inspired Jackson Merrill's Players Weekend bat. But I gotta get rolling here in just a few minutes. I'm gonna let you get going. I know you got some important meetings to get to. But is there anything you wanted to plug? Anything else you wanted to plug for the listeners before we head out?
No, just I guess my book Win Some. It's a relational fable about a retiring aging baseball player. And so like what's cool for anybody listening or watching. I mean, you can get it on all the different platforms, and you can download an audio version, which is awesome. But it just talks about how to how baseball is a lot like life, and how as it relates to building relationships, and how baseball can actually speak to a lot of people who have struggles building relationships. And so it's a pretty powerful book. I've got a lot of positive, favorable feedback. It was on the Amazon kind of top new release for the whole, earlier this summer and spring. And so it did really well. And so we're just trying to bring awareness to the messaging and the powerful impact of baseball, like we were talking about before, like just the impact that baseball has in life. And this is just yet another example of how it's like life. And so anyway, I hope everybody can have a chance to read it.
Fantastic. I'll make sure I include a link down in the description to Amazon. Or do you prefer to go through? Do you have your own website you
No,
rather have people go through?
Amazon's great.
Okay, I'll make sure I have a link to Amazon on there. And real quick, last thing, I love that you talked about how baseball and relationships are like they're one and the same, right? I will never forget. It was probably, man, it had to have been like 6 years ago. Brig out of the blue one day texted me. This is before we started the podcast or anything related to it, because we started with T-shirts before. But he's like, "What is baseball to you?" And I was like, "It's life, man. Like not just because like I love it and it's everything that I do basically. Like, but you have to rely on other people. But ultimately, it comes down to what you do on your own.
Yep.
You cannot win without other people around you, but you still got to put forth the effort." I was like, "That's life. That's baseball." So
That an incredible balance, isn't it? I love it.
hmm yeah, it's awesome. Love it. Well, Brian, thank you so much again for joining me. Unfortunately, Brick was not able to be here,
Yeah.
but we'll get him. We'll get him another time.
Well, thanks, Brad. Appreciate it, and appreciate all you guys do around the sport of baseball. It's just awesome, and keep it up.
Love it. Thank you, baseball family. We'll be right back. Baseball family, thank you so much for joining me for that conversation with Brian Slipka. It's fascinating talking to somebody who owns a baseball team and such a cool company like Pillbox Bats. And make sure you go check out his book. I'm going to have the link down in the description there. Also, while you're down in the description, be sure to head over to ChinookSeedery.com and use code BTPOD at checkout to save 10% off your order. Support your mouth, support your wallet, and support the show all at the same time by getting the best seeds ever. Baseball family, once again, thank you so much for joining us this week on Ball Talk. We will catch you next week.